It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Everett Silvertips Director of Broadcast and Public Relations, Mike Bennett. How are you doing today?
I'm doing just fine, Brandon. Thanks for having me. And your Thursday going all right so far?
Yes. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to work in professional sports?
Well, I knew that when I couldn't garner more than 3 hits in a season in baseball, I began trying my hand at hockey way too late in childhood. And when I found a way to break 80 on the golf course, it was an accomplishment. By the time you get to be, 18, 19 years of age and you hit your growth spurt already, you begin to figure out that, it might be time to look for something else where you may have a little more potential. So borrowing this from the phrase of a local sportscaster, I grew up watching and had a chance to meet for a little bit. He said, I couldn't play a good game, but I could talk a good game. And growing up in the Los Angeles area where, you're exposed so much to some of the all-time greats, Vin Scully, Bob Miller, Chick Hearn, and the list goes on and on. The more you begin to accept and not just embrace, but begin to feel an inner drive to try to do something just like them. So to kind of lead into it, that's, where a few of my career heroes come from. And being that I couldn't really do much on the field, on the ice, or on the golf course, I was better suited for it recreationally. And, this is a better thing, as far as what I can do to serve people professionally.
What was your time like as the broadcaster and media relations intern for the High Desert Mavericks?
High Desert Mavericks. Yes. I'm so glad that you brought them up, man. I can't believe that was about 17 years ago, and it was my first taste of a lengthy season professionally, and it was right smack out of college. I had the privilege of working as a number 2 broadcaster to Roxy Bernstein, and he's nowadays heard and seen so much on ESPN, Pac-12 networks as well, covering everything, baseball, football, basketball. He's dabbled in hockey a little bit too. But I really appreciated, besides just Roxy's friendship, which led to that off the bat, was his professionalism and showing me the ropes on how to act around the guys, how to prepare efficiently. And when it comes to getting on the air for each top of the inning, to signing off for the bottom of the inning, to how to work beneath your voice professionally. And, by that, I mean just multitask when it comes to managing your notes, managing a scorebook, using your peripheral vision to see the field and add to that as a layer to your call really made such a big difference. And Roxy's got such a talent with being able to take, the routine, maybe the mundane, and then be able to transition that into some of the more exciting, the more high impact moments that you get, say maybe in the 8th or 9th innings. And so working alongside him was a real treat. And not only that, but getting a chance for about a good 10, 15 games to take the reins all by myself when he couldn't be there for a few of them gave me the confidence that I could do this here for a full-time job. And lo and behold, it's led into a very, very positive and fruitful 16, 17-year career.
What was it like the first time you became the sidelines reporter for the media of the Metro Sports TV?
Yeah, that was back in 2003. And I'll remember that for the rest of my life because that was my very first taste of getting on the air and getting a paycheck for it. I actually had a chance. I still have the actual game saved. And for those who maybe haven't followed along as far as what Metro Sports is, they've taken a metamorphosis nowadays under several different stations, and they've ever since changed to Time Warner and a few others. But they have been the big fish in Kansas City's pond for quite a while when it comes to big league teams, college teams, and even high school sports as well. And so when I was in college back in 2003, they were the TV rights holders for the NAI Final Four, similar to the NCAA. I went to an NAI school, Azusa Pacific, and they've since gone Division II. But back then, it was a pretty big deal for the NAI. So by luck of the SID of Azusa Pacific, Gary Pine, who has meant so much for me in my career, and giving me advice on how to connect with these people beforehand, it actually led into an opportunity to do sideline for the NAI Final Four. I know I wouldn't have gotten the opportunity if I didn't show them that I had been doing APU basketball for a couple of years on local access television. And back then as a college kid, I wasn't getting paid a dime for it. You're just doing it for the love. But leading into it, it showed them that while I was a bit wet behind the ears, I at least had competence with being on the air and getting a few reps and then being able to help tell a story for 3 broadcasts that were then taken and shown nationally. Back then, satellite dishes were the way to go, not just YouTube. It really meant a lot. And, while I look back on those tapes now, I still have them. I was very, 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 very green. There's no way that they would make my demo reel nowadays, but it was such a big feather in my cap to get a chance like that, to be on television, to get through the butterflies of it all firsthand, and then begin to build for sure. So it was certainly a special time.
What was your time like as the play-by-play for the University of California, Riverside?
Yeah, again, another very, very important stepping stone early on in my career. That was maybe now, as far as comparisons to what I've done nowadays for length, maybe a blip on the radar, and but really no less valuable than what I've had a chance to experience with the Everett Silvertips and previously the Alaska Aces, Stockton Thunder, and others. UC Riverside was a chance for a season to do women's Division I college basketball on the air. And it was during the NHL lockout season of 2004. And I was looking around for a hockey job, not going to lie, but was open to other opportunities. And so that, my first winter out of college, gave me an opportunity to spread my wings a little bit in the broadcasting world. Through a friend of mine, I learned they were looking for a broadcaster. They were also looking for a person who could help sell sponsorships. And this is kind of the thing that a lot of people are still learning nowadays when you're first starting out with a team. Besides just being on the air and being a guy to help bring you everything from the first pitch, opening tip, drop of the puck, to the final whistle, you've got to do a little bit more off the air. And in this case, it was sell advertising. I really didn't know much back then about how the game worked, and I struggled. And it took a lot of no's. It took a lot of sit-down conferences with some of the important people in their athletics department. And I took a few lumps for the first time in my life, which forced me to maybe deal with failure. But in the very end, I understood what sales meant, and it was more than just like what you would do walking into a department store and saying, "I'd like to buy this, this, and this," and the person acts no more than someone who helps ring up your transaction. What you'll learn eventually, if you do this for a long time, is that like broadcasting, where it's a relationship type of medium, sales is a relationship type of business. And the more that you can find your way to use your personality to your advantage, grow relationships, in turn, you're going to help make money for the person or the company that you're working for. So it was very, very valuable for me off the air, and even on the air. Really had a great chance to call some great exploits of the Highlanders back then. I still keep in contact with their all-time leading scorer, Cassandra Reeves, who has since gotten married and is now coaching at the NCAA level. And then getting a chance to experience some very, very fun and character-driven buildings from the pristine venue that the San Diego State Aztecs played in, and they still host NCAA tournament games, to some of the more smaller, really intimate and character-driven buildings like Santa Barbara with the Pit, with Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo. The list goes on and on. So I certainly look at that as a very, very valuable time.
What was the transition like from you for going from college to now working in the professionals with the Dayton Dragons?
Yeah, with the Dragons, Dayton, Ohio, that was a great move for me, just getting a chance to spread my wings. So, by that time, going from calling college hoops at UCR, and even then I was still helping APU moonlight as their TV guy for some basketball games to kind of keep my pipes fresh. But getting a chance to do baseball was a once in a lifetime opportunity that if I really felt that, based on how young I was and the experience I was, if I was going to get picky and say no, those chances might not come again, or might not come for a long, long time. So looking around all over the country for a minor league baseball job, Dayton opened up. And while it forced me to move halfway across country and far away from my home for the first time in my life, it really forced me into a sink or swim mentality when it came to my life off the air, but even more, it was so valuable professionally for me on the air. The Dayton Dragons still operate as a diamond category flagship franchise of minor league baseball. I was told one time they're run like a Fortune 500 company, but their business happens to be baseball. So what you'll learn on the air and how to conduct yourself with decorum, not just with transparency, was so valuable. And then off the air, finding a way to help elevate their business on a very white collar, and I use that phrase just from the amount of decorum that they had in their office, and it's off the charts positive. It was a good experience, good learning experience for me, and it really helped shape the boundaries for me down the road. When I got into hockey full time, I began to run my own department and hire my own interns and understand how much planning and how much structure goes into success every day. So that's what Dayton did for me, and they've done so much for so many broadcasters over the years.
What was your time as the play-by-play for the Stockton Lighting?
For arena football too?
Yes. Very
memorable. Not long enough, and only for just 4 years did I have a chance to really call those games, because they were run under the parent company of the Stockton Thunder, which when I first got hired were run by Michael Reinsdorf, who's Jerry's son, and he's still got a hand involved big time right now with the Chicago Bulls. So getting a chance to call arena football too was quite an experience, quite different from what I had when I was in college at Azusa Pacific, calling traditional 11-on-11 football at the NAIA level. Arena football really, again, gave me a taste of variety in my career, where you're calling 50-yard indoor war. That's what it was branded for so many years, 50-point games, and even dealing with a change in direction of athlete culture from hockey versus football. It's way different, and it really helped me understand the difference in culture from the two different sports, and helped me develop my flexibility when it comes to engaging with people across the board and developing those relationships. One of the most memorable experiences I'll ever have in my career was getting a chance to call arena football to J.J. Stokes, who played for the 49ers and had an outstanding career in college at UCLA, and has ever since then gone to really make his mark in broadcasting in the football world. I love JJ to death. If I get a chance to come across paths again with him, I'd hug him. What I love from him was, when I had a chance to take a breather from saying it's second or third down, he jumps right in, and not just from his experience, but his ability to understand how to describe the play and then find the appropriate time to get out and give the reins back to me for the call when the ball's under center. It really showed for me just how well built he was for this business after his playing career. And it gave so much more variety and so much more depth to our broadcasts.
What was your experience like working as a freelance reporter for the NHL with the San Jose Sharks and the Edmonton Oilers?
Loved it. And I just don't toss around that word just for the sake of, throwing something out just from a trivial level. I still have relationships from those two positions with Edmonton and San Jose. It happened when I was with the Stockton Thunder, and they were looking for somebody to help them out back when digital media was really in its infancy. Twitter wasn't very much at the forefront. I don't think any team back then had heard of Instagram at that time. YouTube at that point was something for more amateur video rather than something that has now morphed into NHL teams and pro sports teams using across the board, and now has developed its own platform that people can stream live TV on. So getting a chance to give the Oilers and Sharks a helping hand with their social media, with being on site with photography, and then helping to generate stories as well from the players, who are working so hard. For instance, on the Sharks level and the Oilers level, at their prospects camp throughout the season, with making progress as well across the minor league level, the college level, major, junior on top of that. And then with the Oilers getting a chance to do this at the NHL draft and cover the Taylor Hall and Tyler Seguin draft, what an incredible opportunity that was, to be able to take the skill set that God's given you at that point, develop it, and then work with it with the stories that players like Hall, Seguin, and even when the draft finally came, other players down the line who had a chance to make an impact as Oilers, really take those stories and mold it and shape it into the context of the future for EdmontonOilers.com. It's helped me maintain relationships now with people who have been behind the scenes there and have been in charge of the controls. Good friend of mine, Mark Ciampa. I was in contact with him for so long with getting these stories up and running here, and since then he's gone on to have an amazing career as a guy who really drives the engine of digital media coverage, and now is in charge for the New Jersey Devils on top of that. So freelance for me, but quite a big impact that it made for helping shape some storytelling abilities out of me and helping serve a pretty broad fan base on the other side.
What was your time with the Alaska Aces?
A couple of years, which involved one of the greatest moments of my life, and getting a chance to call the only championship, matter of fact, in my career, which involved a happy ending at the very end with a team lifting the cup over their head. That was back in 2014 when I first took the job that first season, and it was a move deemed necessary because my wife, Amy, and I were looking at that time about how to maximize our opportunities financially to be able to have a kid and grow our family, and not just winning the Kelly Cup, but I would even argue a greater moment than that, and one of the greatest in my entire life, was seeing my firstborn son enter the world, Lucas Paul Benton. That happened about 6 months after the Kelly Cup championship. Amy was pregnant with him, and holding Ford down to the fact where she was, starting to kind of feel the physical effects of it. But with me being gone, it was a little more difficult. So when we had a chance to go clinch the championship in Cincinnati, I felt what was best for her was just to, maybe get away and fly back down to her hometown in California and enjoy some time with the soon-to-be grandmother, her mom, and a few girlfriends from growing up back in the day. So I think when we won the championship, I texted her, and she was out in San Francisco with a few girlfriends enjoying a very, very nice meal as well, too. So, but the Kelly Cup is part of it. Getting a chance to narrate and outline a championship vocally for so many engaged fans watching statewide in Alaska was an incredible moment I will never, ever forget. And I still recall those words here to this day, saying Anchor Town is Title Town. And it was a chance for me to put a stamp on a new championship, just like my predecessors in Josh Bogorod and Jack Michaels, who've gone on to the NHL, and to really give listeners and viewers of Alaska something that they will never, ever forget. So that's why it was special to me. The fans of Alaska are some of the most passionate I've ever seen and ever heard. There are many that I still keep in contact with, and by far they deserve the best as far as hockey. So that's why it was so special.
That's so amazing. What was your time transitioning into your role now with the Everett Silvertips as the public relations?
Yes, with the Everett Silvertips, it's again helped me expand what I've been able to do from a broadcasting level, from a behind the scenes level, and continue working to build, mold, and shape it. I can proudly say that compared from now to when I first began this job back in 2015, helping take the reins in this department, at least for a crown jewel major junior franchise that happens to work in a great area in the Puget Sound. It's been an absolute treasure for me, for my wife, family, and my career. I began this as a broadcaster who knew how to work behind the scenes with media relations. I'm proud to say that working for some great people here who have given me freedom to exercise my skill set creatively has also led to new things I've had a chance to add to my skill set and take that and serve viewers, serve listeners with on top of that. For instance, I had no idea how to do Photoshop before this. I had no idea how to, work behind the scenes production when it comes to a green screen with lighting. And because we are not armed with a 20-person staff and a budget that mirrors ESPN, it forces you to really work creatively and figure out what you can do to show your best work, to show this team's best, while getting a chance to do it on a pretty tight budget. So this green screen behind me plays a major role of that. Ever since the pandemic began, it's helped me understand the importance of using a virtual studio set. We can take this and basically drop in any kind of studio setting where it looks like you're on SportsCenter. It makes such a big difference for how we distribute news visually across our website, across social media. And it really adds to the level of decorum that this franchise pursues when it comes to being their best here in the Puget Sound. Getting a chance to do that and work with some of the greatest players at their age level in the entire world, and a very dedicated and driven coaching staff has meant the world to me. It's made an impact for my career, and in turn, I hope that it's made an impact for what viewers and listeners consume on the air and from what they look at on their phones.
What are some of your roles as the public relations?
It covers a lot. And when it comes to the area of public relations, I kind of had an idea back in college of what it meant, but when you work in this business for a long time, you understand it covers so much. You are a conduit from your organization to the general public, and there are many ways to do that, from being able to distribute or help deliver stories through the media. That's media relations, and that works under PR. When you're able to define and outline how you drive what's being seen on social media, you're in essence the director of digital media, and that falls under a public relations banner. When it comes to defining the voice of an organization, I'm not talking about a voice on the air. When it comes to defining what your organization's all about, what it pursues, what it hopes to do, and how it aims to connect with the public. That's so important, and that falls under the responsibilities of someone who's in charge of public relations. And so getting a chance to, flex my professional muscles in that area has added more. I hope that it's helped strengthen the organization and really even prepare a place like this for such a difficult time that we and many teams have had during this pandemic. What I hope to see happen when we come out of this is that fans still understand that we're still doing this just like that we've done 3 to 4 years ago. We're aiming for a championship cycle. We are aiming for championship tendencies. We're aiming to develop players ready in about a year or 2 years from the NHL. And when fans are allowed back in the building, we are aiming to give them the time of their life, minute 1 to minute 60. And that's Silvertips hockey basically in a nutshell. So the more that we can do that and continue to each visual, each story along that message, the more and more that this organization accomplishes their goals.
Can you talk about, of course, the process for members of the media to get interviews with people on the staff, like coaches, owners, players?
I'm sorry, I lost you for a second.
Can you talk about, of course, the process of members of the media getting interviews for like their podcast or website for members of the staff, like coaches, players, or even staff members?
Yeah, it's more accessible compared to about 20 years ago, where you had to really have a close relationship with a member of the person in charge of the team's PR department. I'd say 25 years ago, back when there was no such thing as email, but now you're able to develop those relationships electronically. And once you're able to get in contact with somebody, then it just basically comes down to you making that request to the person in charge of PR, and then from there just sit and wait and find out when there's the appropriate moment to get the player you want, get the coach you want, get the staffer you want in front of a microphone, and take it from there. So the way that this world operates now, it kind of fluctuates based on really time of year and kind of the cycle that each team is in. I can say I've gotten maybe no more requests in my whole life than maybe 2017-18, when Carter Hart was in his final year here as an Everett Silvertips goaltender. And when you get so many requests, what you aim to do every time is honor those requests for people who put them in, but understand that every player has a schedule, and every player has a 24-hour period where they've got to rest and they've got to sleep for about maybe 10 or 11 hours. So, there's only so much requests that you can maybe jam into a window for the whole day before the player begins to feel burnt out, and then it affects them. So, when it comes to talking to every kind of player, the baseline objective is to fulfill those requests and really use that a team's advantage to grow and develop a relationship with the media. For a higher demand player, you're going to realize that there's a pecking order for it. And if a team's got a relationship with a reporter who's been in a major newspaper or a TV outlet for a long, long time, they're probably going to get that first crack at the interview versus someone who maybe is just trying to start up. But if you can get in at the right time, grow that relationship with the person who's helping develop those interviews, the likelier that you're going to find success with landing those interviews. Because really, at the end of the day, again, this is a relationship driven media, and I find that the more that people treat it like that, the easier these things go, and the better interviews and the better stories that you're going to find and also develop.
Of course, with COVID being a big factor, have you noticed where more people of the media are doing more Zoom calls with your players or coaches versus actually going to the facility?
Yeah, oh my, it's been a complete game changer. And even in some sense, I find that Zoom has helped open a new avenue of convenience when it comes to getting these interviews done. Because, I mean, when it comes to Zoom, it's you in front of your computer or your phone, and to the other person on their computer or on their phone. And you can do this thing from anywhere. I mean, you can get in your car and do the Zoom interview from there. You can go into a park and do the Zoom interview from there. When we first got into the pandemic and we're getting through this, I was doing Zoom interviews from my own backyard, just finding a good place to put some scenery behind me and go, because our office was shut down. Now I find that once people are adjusted to that, there's a level of convenience that they can achieve that was not previously possible. It is kind of a double-edged sword, though, and what people have to understand, again, that this is a relationship-driven medium. So it's been great as far as having Zoom help us get through these interviews during the season, because with COVID protocol, you weren't allowed to have any face-to-face interaction. That was just because it's a health-driven issue. What we're going to find, though, is in the next 4, 6, maybe even 12 months is a stronger push, I think, from people to get back to the usual face-to-face type of communication. Because when it comes to getting interviews, it's more than just asking a question. It's tapping into a relationship. And the more people are able to have face-to-face interaction, the more that it drives and enhances that relationship. I'm not sure if we're going to go back to the wide open Wild West style of having people in locker rooms, dressing rooms, and all of that. It really depends upon team to team. But what you hear so much from reporters is how much a face-to-face interaction matters so much. So Zoom's been great as far as getting people what they need during a difficult period like this. Eventually, though, we're going to see, I think, maybe a return to at least a half and half thing, where Zoom is great, but we're all pursuing face-to-face. And once it's safe to finally do so, you're going to see a lot of folks, I think, take that option.
What is something that you learned now that you didn't know before working in public relations?
Terrific question. And I think it maybe goes back to that R-word relationships, where, you'll learn first off when you get into this line of work on, how important it is to get game notes done on time, get press releases done on time, to, coordinate player A, B, or coach C with a media member from a local paper or TV station. But really, at the end of the day, what helps drive success is relationships. And the best people who work in a field like this are able to develop relationships with those around who they work with, be able to understand stories and use those stories to their advantage, and share those with the people that they work with from the outside in the media. So the more and more that I find and can have simple face-to-face conversations, with our head coach, Dennis Williams, with up and coming players who could be making an impact in about a couple of years in the National Hockey League, to other staffers who are making a big impact with this organization. The more and more that I can have intimate conversations with them, learn more about what drives them, what makes them happy, what makes them tick, and even find the occasional nugget that would just make you go, wow, when you read the paper or listen to an interview. The more success that I find, and that's what I strive for even more now as compared to, a few years back, is to develop those relationships and find a way to get the best out of people that you work alongside with.
What is something that you learned now that you didn't know before working as a director of broadcasts?
That there's both behind the scenes when it comes to success. I should say this, actually, there's a lot that goes into it better than just going on the air and not flubbing over your words. When you're a director of broadcasting, you're tasked with a lot ranging from who's going to be covering your games to, depending upon who you work for, developing the radio contract and what goes into it, to working with local sponsors and helping serve their needs. And then even finally, it's sometimes being your own engineer and just making sure that this dial's turned up appropriately, this one's turned down appropriately, and that you're doing your best to avoid a mishap on the air where you're not getting people who are emailing you angry saying, where's the broadcast? Where I can't hear it. It's too soft. It's too loud. The more and more that you can plan and prepare in advance and be able to tie those loose ends up, the more success that you're going to find. The more cleaner that your sound is, the better your sound comes off, the better your demo, the better you serve your fans. And hey, maybe who knows, the more and more that you might appeal someone working for a network or a big league team who might want to use your services here down the road. So to kind of put it into one whole sentence, it's attention to detail. That makes such a big difference when it comes to calling a good game on the air and helping set things up to make it sound good from off the air.
What advice would you give somebody looking to work in professional sports on the broadcast side and public relations side?
Man, this answer has changed for me over the years so much. But I think with the understanding that I've gained over the last few years, it really doesn't get better than this as far as I'm concerned. Make such an effort to grow relationships around you. And it's not just from people who can give you advice, but it's also people that you work with. And when you get into this business, don't make it about yourself. We all want to be on the air. We all want to be the guy who grabs the mic and delivers the most spine-tingling call at the greatest moment of the greatest inning or period or quarter. What I find the great broadcasters have in common, who are in the NHL, the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NBA, NCAA, is that they are people who strive to be good people, but also serve others around them. And they do that with an authentic approach, with a warm approach, and with an energetic approach. And the more and more that people like that can pursue those ideals, the more success that they're going to find. When I got in this line of work, hey, I was 22, 23, and I thought I had the whole world all figured out. Boy, was I ever wrong. And the more and more I understood where it wasn't about me, but it was about who I was serving and how best I can serve them, the more and more that you're going to find success. At the end of the day, broadcasting is just like having a conversation with anybody in your car, at the dinner table, at a barbecue. The only difference is just that there's like a microphone right in between you two and speakers. So the more and more that you can find a way to match the two on the air and off the air, the more success that you're going to find. So pursue those relationships, be the best person you can be, and find a way at the end of the day to make that person on the other side feel good and say, wow, you feel like I'm your best friend.
That's wonderful advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the team at on social media?
I look forward to connecting with anybody here possible. So go ahead and find me on Twitter. I'm at Benton_Mike. Instagram, I've opened that up about a few years ago. I'm at Benton on the mic on Instagram. The Everett Silvertips are on Twitter at WHL Silvertips. So, I mean, by all means, if you, dear viewer, watching this, have a few more questions here for me, please reach out to me. The DMs are open, and more than happy to help you out. And I've understood that, the more and more that you can pay it forward, the more success you're going to find in this world when it comes to, most importantly, with helping people be their best.
That's great. Thank you again, Mike Benton, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with the Evertons.
Thank you, Brandon. You as well.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Mike, for your interview, and best of luck.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.